readers,
reviewers,
countrymen,
lend us your ears. Welcome back to the channel. Today, myself, Will, and my lovely brother, Ed, are going to be talking about our favourite non-fantasy books of all time. Our fourth favourite to our number one favourite plus. You know what? We want to talk about as many books as possible, so we shoved 3 honourable mentions in there along the way. So
we made the rules.
We
so
did.
We can bend
so
them.
exactly. So yes, there is a part to this video we did last week, which is our 10th to 5th favourite, but this is the very, very, very favourite non-fantasy favourites of all time. It's a bit of a tongue twister that. The rules are only 1 book per author, because or we'd probably have 7 by Bernard Cornwell and 7 by Cormac McCarthy. Someone else by Cormac McCarthy, and then that would be it. So yeah, we wanted to spice it up a bit, didn't we? And so that is what we've done. 1 book per author, and we will go down from the number 4th spot to the very number 1. Hopefully you stick with us to the end. We're probably going to be raving and rambling about our favourites, but hopefully we don't bore you too much. And hopefully, I've already said hopefully 4 or 5 times this video, hopefully you pick up some of the books that we talk about, or at the least you're intrigued by them.
Maybe.
Do you want to kick us off with your number 4th favourite non-fantasy book of all time?
Ride the Wind by Lucia St. Clair Robson is a historical fiction set in the 19th century in the Great Plains of America, where a young girl called Cynthia Ann Parker was kidnapped by a band of Comanche, and then she was raised and indoctrinated into their tribe. And it's an amazing story set from Cynthia Ann Parker's point of view and some other people's POVs as well, and it shows how she gets swept along and how she really does become one of this band of warriors and this band of just people really as they follow the buffalo through the plains of America down near the southern states. And it's a breathtaking book. It's written so beautifully. It's very poignant. It's got a wonderful commentary on civilization and people and humanity. There's really just so much to get into, to get your teeth stuck into. And the characters are absolutely wonderful. They've all got slight nuances. They're all very individual, and what happens as well is it's a true story. It's a breathtaking story, and it is one that really had this emotional gut punches just sprinkled throughout. It's a brutal read as well. I mean, it was labelled on Goodreads as a romance. There's a little bit of romance, but I would definitely say this is a quite a dark historical fiction at times, but is also full of quite a lot of hope. And it is a true story, and obviously, really, history is the darkest thing that you can write about.
You said you don't get more grimmed out than history. You said it in the interview with us, didn't you?
So there you go. That is my 4th favourite non-fantasy favourite fiction fantasy non-fantasy book.
Very nicely put, Ed. So you know what? Last week, my favourite phrase was, yes, that's another book I really need to read. And it's making a return, because yes, I do need to read that, because you've been raving about it for quite a while now. You read it this year, didn't you? Very early this year.
Yeah.
Is that memory? Number 4 for me is Normal People by Sally Rooney. So this is very different from what I usually read. This is, well, you could call it a romance, but there's so much tragedy. Is it a romance? This took the world by storm when it was adapted into an amazing programme. Amazing in my opinion. Oh my goodness. It made me sob, so it must have been evocative. And yeah, it made me sob in a good way. I wasn't like, this is so bad.
A thing?
Yeah, well, I guess you can look at it as I didn't cry because it's so bad. I cried because I loved those 2 main characters so much that it's
and
rare.
Connell's Chain, obviously.
And Connell's Chain. I love Connell's Chain. You got it on right now?
No.
Oh, that's a shame. But yeah, I love these 2 main characters, Connell and Marianne. They are absolutely superb characters. We see their virtues as well as their flaws, which are exposed many times throughout this book. Sally Rooney has a way of showing characters the full scope of humanity and the full scope of these characters and their personalities, their motivations, drives, and, as I said, personalities.
Yeah.
But still making you feel engaged with them, relate to them, and you feel attached to them as well. That even when they do some bad things that you know are wrong and you want to shake them and say, come on, do this instead. There's an easy solution. And as I said, sometimes they're very frustrating because you want to shake them. But despite all of that, you still absolutely love them, don't you? And the way they interact together, that is Sally Rooney's strength, I would say, is character interactions, and you see all the subtext playing into this, where the words, there's a lot left unsaid, and that is often what is more important than what is actually said. And there's a great dose of tension in this as well, where it made it feel like a battle. It made it feel like this is a war, but in a romance, tragedy, contemporary fiction book. So yeah, there we go. That is Normal People. I'm not the first to be talking about it, and I will be far from the last.
And the next one for me, number 3, is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, and this is a Pulitzer Prize winning Western from before.
I think I might be wrong, but I think Mike Book Review said he might be reading Lonesome Dove soon.
I really hope Mike does, because I think Mike would absolutely love it. I mean, I definitely would recommend reading books 1 and 2 of the series before you read Lonesome Dove, just to get that emotional connection to the characters. But Lonesome Dove is definitely, this is the first written, so Lonesome Dove is definitely the best out of the series, 100%. And it is a Pulitzer Prize winner for a reason. It's a breathtaking book. It is an odyssey, and it starts off as almost a comedy and it ends in a tragedy. And it is a fantastic story of 2 veteran Texas Rangers as they drive a herd of cattle all the way across from the southern states of America, Texas, all the way up to, I believe it's Montana or Wyoming. I think it's Montana. And they're the first people to do so. And it is full of these quirky Western characters. If you've played ever, Red Dead Redemption 2, that kind of thing, then you know what the quirky West can really be. And Larry McMurtry's writing in Lonesome Dove is no exception. He's also one of the best writers I've ever read, and the way he POV swaps in the same paragraph even is just fantastic. You really have a feel for who the characters are, and it is absolutely hilarious, and it will make you weep as well. There are scenes in this book that are so poignant and powerful that you cannot help but just be really sucked into it. And yeah, it's one of my favourite books for a reason. I love Westerns anyway, because I always think they've got such a unique and interesting voice. All the authors that I've read who have written Westerns, they seem to have a grasp of this voice that is very quirky, it's very funny at times, and it's very quite sad as well. And Lonesome Dove is definitely fits into that category.
Yeah, I definitely need to read some more Westerns, because we are character-driven readers, aren't we, Ed? Yeah. And I think many other viewers are the same, that they love to be focused on the characters first, and then the story will be carried with them.
There's no with Westerns, duels or anything. It's not like a Clint Eastwood film. It's not like The Outlaw Josie Wales' action. There's pretty much no action in these books, and it's just purely conversation and relationships and that kind of stuff. It's normal people if normal people had cowboy hats.
Very nice. And what I was going to say is that it seems that Westerns, I need to read more, because on the whole it seems that there's a big focus on how quirky people can be, and that is something that I find is lacking for most other genres.
The intricacies of humanity.
Exactly, how random people can be. And we've been watching The English, haven't we? And one of the strengths is that there's a lot of tragedy amongst there, and a lot of very brutal, gritty themes, and it's pretty bleak, but it's got that quirkiness to it as well, which sometimes brings some humour. But yes, exactly. But sometimes it actually makes you feel like it enhances what you feel about that person already. Yeah, sometimes it makes them a bit more intimidating, because it's just enhancing who they are, making them feel more real and vivid and alive, and that's what we love to come across in books. Exactly. So number 3 for me is getting to the hard ones to rank now, and my third one is Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. I was very shocked that I ranked this higher than you did, because Ed, this was your 5th. It was the last one you talked about last video, I believe, which blew me away, because I thought this would be your number 1. So that shows how much I know you. But yeah, Gates of Fire, absolutely love this. It's a standalone. We have done a review for it on the channel. I think we labelled it, is this the best historical fiction book ever? Obviously that is a subjective opinion, and I'd say that is the best in many ways, in the sense that I think this is a historical fiction book for everyone, and it's rare that you can find a book that's kind of like that. It's one of those that in every genre, I'd say there's a few books that you would recommend to everyone, no matter what genre they enjoy, and this is one of those. It's a genre-defying book, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love how there's the contrast between the epic story of Thermopylae 300 and the Greco-Persian War, where the Spartans and their allies opposed the greatest of odds that we can like just crazier than we can even imagine. But then you've got the intimate story at the heart of it as well. So Chronicler's Tale, we've got someone telling their own small story within this, that they are part of these events, but they have little agency, and it's more about those kind of characters at the heart of it, their beliefs, their outlooks, the events that unfold, the tragedy that occurs, and their heroic acts as well. This is, as I say this with quite a few of my favourite books, it shows the full scope of humanity, and that's what I really enjoy. A roller coaster of emotions where you have characters that you're really attached to, and you see that they are heroic, and maybe not in the sense of war all the time, but just heroic in the sense of self-sacrifice or along those lines. But then also you have the tragedy as well, and you see the depravities of humanity at the same time. And Gates of Fire definitely achieves that. And so that is why it's my number 3rd favourite non-fantasy book of all time.
Very nice. And my second pick, I saw a few people commenting on our last video saying, where is she? But she has arrived, and it is Boudica. This is a series that I read this year. I think I'm going to define this year as the Boudica year, because this is the year I tackled the series and fell in love with it.
It's quite nice how you spread them out, because they're big chunky books and you just took it slow, because sometimes when you blitz read this series you can kind of forget some details or not appreciate it fully, can't you?
Yeah, sure. So Boudica, Dreaming the Eagle is a fantastic book. It's one of my favourites for sure. It's obviously number 2 on this list. I wonder where it would rank if I included fantasy as well. Definitely very high up. This feels a little bit like Robin Hobb was writing historical fiction meets David Gebel, I definitely think, because the Boudica, the characters in this series are absolutely fantastic. They convey so much emotion between them, and their relationships are really at the forefront of this series. There is some fantastic action. The multi-POV aspect of this is wonderful. The animals used here are just fantastic, and I love the mythology behind the Celtic peoples of the Iceni tribe and all the other Celtic tribes in Britain. I think the main characters, Boudica and her brother Ban, are just sublime characters, and they you just get behind them so easily. Immediately you love them for different reasons. You love them for who they are, and they're such unique people. It's a very small cast, so you can get very, very attached to these characters, but try not to, because they will perish, and they will perish in horrible ways.
You sound like Korg in Thor Ragnarok.
And perished. So it's fantastic, and I would definitely recommend anyone who likes fantasy to go read this, because this series is the most epic historical fiction I think I've ever read. It definitely is. There's no historical fiction that's actually come close to this. Even Gates of Fire doesn't quite feel as epic as Boudica, in my opinion, and that's pretty insane, isn't it? Because
it's about 300 Spartans against a million Persians.
A million Persians. So there we go.
That's very nice. And I will be reading that this month, because it won the vote, didn't it? For we pitched 2 books to the other brother. Mm-hmm. You have to read Red Sister in December, and I have to read Dreaming the Eagle. Brilliant. I have to read it. What a shame. What a shame. So my penultimate one is really hard to choose, which was my number 1 and number 2, but number 2 ended up being The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is my Folio Society edition. I actually really like the artwork. Sometimes I think they're a bit hit or miss, Folio Society, but I do like the theme of basically it's as bleak as you can get with a dash of red. I think in there. The covers usually, I think that the Folio edition of the Cormac McCarthy books they're not great, are they? Blood Meridian was awful, but The Road is still bad. We still have them, because we still have to. I'm a serial collector. Actually, let me reach. Ed's got a paper. Obviously, this is more kind of collector's edition. Yeah, but it doesn't have a sticker you found this paperback edition. Which, look at those pages. It's pretty nice, isn't it? You don't really see a paperback often with kind of that much effort put into the design. Waterstones just do these special editions right, don't they? Yeah. It destroys Folio Society. But The Road is a bleak story. Special editions, Will? The Broken Binding. Those guys. Wow, we mentioned them in another video. As you talk, I'm just going to peel this out. Careful you don't damage the... You carry on. So The Road it could be defined as apocalyptic, because we don't know what has happened. It may have been a nuclear war, an environmental crisis, but this is a world in the not so far away future, which is bleak, dying and decaying. There's little life left on it in terms of plants and people, and basically the ones left, there's not many people left alive, but the ones who are trying to survive. And at the heart of the story, thank you very much, is a father and son, and they say very, very few words to each other. But as I said earlier, this is what is left unsaid, which is important. And you see this relationship and how it is really explored and how it evolves. I thought was an absolute masterful.
I think the main thing with
Cormac
anything
McCarthy.
written by Cormac McCarthy is the way he writes. His prose is unequalled because people could write a very similar story, couldn't they? But I definitely don't think people could get away with writing the same story if they don't have his level of skill.
Yeah, it's a very fine line when there's kind of more didactic messages to it. It's on the verge of you don't want to come across pretentious, and I think a lot of authors, maybe not pretentious, but shoving it down your throat a bit. And a lot of authors can make, in my opinion, make the mistake of making it feel a bit force-fed, that forcing it down your throat, what they're trying to deliver. Yeah. But Cormac McCarthy just poses the question, and then he shows you the book, and you're like, yes, this must change, or this is what is important, whatever he is trying to depict, or whatever we interpret. One of the brilliant things about reading is we all interpret it differently. But The Road, I thought, is a very visceral read, very engaging, very dark, very bleak. There's a lot of tension, and one scene in here, I actually felt sick with the tension when they find something, and oh my gosh, it just blew me away. And I need to watch the film with Viggo Mortensen. Who's the boy in it? I think he's been other stuff.
Cody Smith.
Is he the one who's in Tarzan?
He's in loads of stuff. Yeah, he's in loads of stuff.
Or The Jungle Book. I remember you saying when we watched it. But yeah, so I need to watch The Road. Have you watched?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
You love Viggo Mortensen, don't you? And you love The Road.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you going to say yes again?
Yeah.
Nicely done. So that is my penultimate book. Now we will get to the honourable mentions.
Let's do some quick fire honourable mentions then.
Yes.
So for me, I'll give you... this is Bernard Cornwell's The Pale Horseman. This is my favourite Bernard Cornwell book. I love the journey that Uhtred goes in through here. It's the book 2 of the Saxon stories, Saxon Chronicles. And I love how that Uhtred is a young man kind of seeking his fortune, seeking his fame. And I read this at a very impressionable age and I absolutely loved it. I ate it up and I think...
You became Uhtred for a while.
I did, well I tried to anyway. I didn't raid the Cornish coast quite as much, but I definitely gave it a go.
What a shame.
But yeah, I think Uhtred's, his development in this book, he goes a very long way, and the set pieces, there's such a diverse range here, and it feels like the most unique Bernard Cornwell book that he's written. It doesn't follow a template. It feels like this one, and it's a very unique one.
Well, the Pale Horseman bridges that kind of very pivotal stage for Uhtred between where he's a very young man, but being put in the position of being a leader.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that kind of balance. Is he going to take those responsibilities and work well with it? My first one, honourable mention, that is Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut. This could be labelled as science fiction or post-war fiction, or as absurdism, or as historical fiction, because it's all to your interpretation. The scientific aspect may be part of a character's way to deal with his PTSD, because this is about someone called Billy Pilgrim, who is captured and is a prisoner of war in World War II, and he is present at the bombing of Dresden, which happened during World War II. And Kurt Vonnegut was actually there, so it's partly autobiographical in terms of the events that we are shown, and Kurt Vonnegut said that he wrote this partly as a form of catharsis, to try and not get over, but try to come to terms with what he saw and try to express it through a book. And he uses very dark humour. It makes you feel a bit guilty that you're laughing out loud throughout this book, but that was Kurt Vonnegut's appeal to many, is that he had so much humour, but contrasting with the tragic themes as well. And it's a very rare book. It's one that I think you either love or hate, and for me, I loved it.
Very nice. And the next one for me is quite a serious time, and it is Paradise Lost by John Milton. Absolutely fantastic kind of portrayal of hell, really, isn't it? And it is the journey through hell, and also the creatures and things and characters that you meet along the way. And Paradise Lost is, well, it wasn't very very popular when it first was released in the 17th century, was it?
Well, I think that it depended what kind of group you're part of, because it created kind of that archetype of Satan as a charismatic leader who is evil. And so Milton was basically saying that if people commit to sin, they're being persuaded very well by someone, but some people thought that was showing Satan in a more positive light. So there's a bit of controversy there.
Yeah, and it is that kind of, it's so poetic, isn't it? And it is written kind of like the Iliad, but if it was the Iliad but in terms of...
Oh, that was Milton's intent to write.
Exactly. He wanted to write a new epic poem, but like since we'd seen, like Beowulf, that kind of thing.
Well, this is known as the last great
epic poem. So, and it really is that. It is so... I mean, it's beautiful to read, I find. It's also very harrowing, and it really displays John Milton's fantastic imagination and his grasp of language, because to write an epic poem as thought-provoking as this really just must have been just so intense.
And do you know he dictated it because he was blind at the time, so his wife wrote it for him.
Whoa. Do you think she added anything?
Well, he would dictate and she would
Satan,
write it down. I think he was part of government at the time. Because he was a big part in the political role, like Oliver Cromwell, the killing of Charles I. All of that. He was in prison at one time. Very interesting life. Very interesting life. Where if powers had not changed, he probably would have remained in prison, and if he didn't have the right friends in the right places. So we would never have Paradise Lost, and we wouldn't be talking about it today. And you'd have a different honourable mention. How crazy is that? Life is fickle, huh? But yeah, next up I have The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This is an amazing book that is about the social divide between teenagers in, is it the 60s?
Yeah.
Between the socials, who are...
Or was it the late 50s?
It might. It's kind of like Greece kind of time, isn't it?
Well,
that's hard to find it. But yeah, so that social divide for the socials and the Greases. So one group are kind of the rich boys and the others are the poor boys, and there was a huge conflict between them. And S.E. Hinton, the author, was actually part of the socials when she was a teenager. And she only wrote this when I think she was 19 or 20, wasn't she?
I think younger.
And it was she wrote about events that she had seen, but then added fictionalized aspects to them, which is very impactful. It's talking about the idea of belonging, duty, identity, family, but also the kind of the pressures of society put upon you, and just it's just telling the story of these boys who just want to live, don't they? And they want to be around their friends, and they're being brought into this conflict, and it's how it affects them, and some of them it ruins their life. So there we go. Read The Outsiders. It sounds really happy.
And the next one for me is Vagabond by Takehiko Inoue. And this is a manga. This is the only manga I've actually ever read, but because it is about the famous samurai Miyamoto Musashi, which I do have a tattoo of, that I had to read it. I saw Petrick recommended this one to me. He said, if you like katanas, then you will enjoy this. So I had to read it, and it was absolutely fantastic. Because I've only read volume 1, but it is amazing. Obviously, I hadn't read any manga before, so I started reading it the wrong way round. I was like,
oh, you read it from right to left,
like, what the hell
is going on?
What is going on? I was like, I mean, it looks great, don't get me wrong, but why is everyone dying? I was like, this is a crazy way to
and why are they coming back to life?
Exactly, people like but yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and it is the story of Miyamoto Musashi as he's growing up as a young boy. And if you don't know, that he is the most famous samurai because I think he won over 30 duels over his life, and he was unbeaten. He was the greatest samurai to have ever lived, supposedly, and there are lots and lots of Japanese films out there about him, so definitely go check out a few. I believe there is Toshiro Mifune was Miyamoto Musashi in one of his films. I can't remember which one now, but definitely go check some out and give Vagabond a go if you've never read a manga before. Like me, I'd never read one, and I never really saw any that I really was desperate to read. But since then, I've definitely got quite a few on my wish list. So I loved it, and the artwork is fantastic. It's like a comic book, but the art is just beautiful, I think, and the level of detail into every single small picture is just brilliant.
After listening to Philip Chase and Matthew Napier talking about Vinland Saga, I really read it because I can't watch the rest of their chats because it's about what happens.
Oh no!
So I've been listening to just the intros of every single one, and then I'll save that for later.
Yeah, they're great videos.
So I've got extra incentive to read manga now. So my last honourable mention is Wolfall by Hilary Mantel. This has become a modern classic, hasn't it? It is big, isn't it? Yeah, of course. It's quite heavy. And so this is book 1 of the Thomas Cromwell trilogy, and I've not read the others yet. I really need to.
That is how you do it.
And the art inside is... I just loved it. It really just
24 carat.
24 carat magic. But yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Thomas Cromwell is one of the greatest and most well-realised characters in fiction, in my opinion. The way that we see him as a child, and then how that kind of really plays into his motivations and drives as an adult, and how he would do anything to keep the position he has fought and striven so hard to reach.
Had style, didn't they? I wish I could wear a ruff.
You can, Ed. No one's stopping you.
They'd probably bark at me.
Oh dear. Let's go on to your favourite ever
on there already.
non-fantasy fiction book.
And this probably won't come as a surprise, but please feel free to pause the video and write down in the comments below what you think my favourite non-fantasy book will be. But it is going to be Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. Now, this is
who had 10 minutes until he brought it up.
Well, it is kind of the point of the video, isn't it?
It is the point of the video.
So
I'll give
if
you
I
that.
can't bring it up now, then when can I?
Exactly, you've chosen your moment.
But Cormac McCarthy is probably my favourite author, who is not Papa Gwyn, and I think Blood Meridian is his pinnacle, his masterpiece, his epic.
Magnus
that
opus,
will go.
It's
definitely the greatest American novel to have ever been written, I reckon.
That was Ed's favourite phrase last year, for those who don't know.
I read a lot of great American novels.
You read Lonesome Dove and you said, this may be the greatest work of American fiction of all time.
Yeah, and I know Mike from Mike Book Reviews didn't enjoy it as much. Lots of people on his channel didn't see what the fuss was all about, but I think when I first read this, it just captivated me. I think Cormac McCarthy's prose really took me by storm. I love this period of history, so I knew a little bit about it already, and then doing more research as I was reading this to find out that it was true and based on someone's autobiography was even more harrowing. But Cormac McCarthy has a way of writing about these brutal and terrible times and this history of America that is very dark that people don't seem to know about. And he has written about it in such a way that it does not feel gratuitous. It doesn't feel over the top whatsoever, because this is all absolutely true, and he tells it in such a matter of fact, but also a beautiful way at times, because his writing, he is a lyrical genius, and no one prose-wise comes close to him. I think he has a way of a turn of phrase that just can make me reread it again and again and again, and that's something that I absolutely love. That's what I look for when I read a Cormac McCarthy book. Blood Meridian is the story of the Kid, a character called the Kid, as he leaves his home and he makes his way down to Mexico, and then he finds himself kind of taken along with a band of scalp hunters, and they are being paid money to take Native American scalps, and they go on their own little journey there, don't they? And you meet some characters that will stick with you for a very long time. And I think another thing that I love about Blood Meridian is the historical realness, as well as the mythology behind it as well, because I mean he has these references to the classical world, and I read a book actually on the references within Blood Meridian to other literature, and you can just see how well read
Moby Dick, I think, is on them, isn't
well,
it? Yeah.
There's honestly hundreds of books, and just even someone's gone through it with a red pen, and even just a little phrase here he picked up from Beowulf, or he's picked up from what's the Russian philosopher's name, Fyodor. I can't remember now, but just so many different people, so many different works that he's read that have had their part to play in Blood Meridian, and he does have a commentary on humanity, doesn't he? And he's very philosophical.
Pretty cynical one.
Yeah, his writing is very philosophical, and that's something that I love as well. So Blood Meridian is my favourite non-fantasy book.
Wow, and yeah, we did a review of Blood Meridian last year on the channel, and I believe it is our most watched review on the channel, so maybe we do have some Cormac McCarthy fans out there, and if you would like to see some more Cormac McCarthy content, please do let us know. We could easily do a review for The Road.
He has one book coming out this year, or it's already out, and then he has another coming out very soon, doesn't he?
I think they're both out.
No, I think
is the other one out in a few weeks? Oh, right, okay.
Definitely December, I think.
Yeah.
So it was, The Passenger and Stella Maris, which are a duology, aren't they?
So yes, if you'd like to see some reviews for them, please do let us know. So yeah, that is Ed's favourite non-fantasy book of all time.
What's yours, Bill?
Just first off, if we were, obviously the rule was one book per author. Now, I've not broken the rule. I'm just saying, if it wasn't, Blood Meridian would probably have been number 3 for me. So yeah, big Cormac McCarthy fans.
You dropped it.
Yeah, so I had The Road and says number 2, and my number 1 is Enemy of God by Bernard Cornwell. The second instalment of his Warlord Chronicles trilogy, which is a retelling of the Arthurian legend, and this is a historical fiction retelling, and we have the central character of Derval, who is in my top 5 characters of all time. Often the main character, he is a great chap. Often the main character of series I find can be a bit They're not your favourites because they're the one kind of driving the plot forward. They can be too nice sometimes, can't they? It's a bit like maybe I don't want to offend anyone if Luke Skywalker is their favourite character,
or if you are Luke Skywalker,
or if you are. I don't want to affect Luke.
Yeah, Mark Hamill, if you're watching.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but not many people say that Luke Skywalker's their favourite character, do they?
Or Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Harry likes Harry Potter.
Harry isn't often people's favourite character.
No, Frodo.
Oh, you used to get upset about that because he actually is your
Frodo
favourite,
is my favourite character.
But most people don't say Frodo.
How dare they?
How dare they? But yeah, so I have Enemy
so
of
you
God.
carry a ring and still have a laugh.
Still have a laugh. What, with Gollum? That'd be quite fun for like half a day. Great impression. We had to get it out, and Ed, he has mastered. That was through hundreds of hours of practice.
This is how bored I was before you were born.
Oh, you've been entertained since.
I mean, no.
Yeah. But yeah, Enemy of God, this is a fantastic book. It brought me to tears on, I believe, 2 separate moments. Obviously, you know some of the events that are going to unfold, but Bernard Cornwell manages to show you these events through a lens which I have not seen them through before. And also, he subverts your expectations here, there, and everywhere. And he also adds extra elements to this legend, which I thought it couldn't become better, but it really did. And Bernard Cornwell's way of telling the story, how these characters weave in and out of each other's stories, because you have some smaller tales within the grand and more epic one, because obviously there's quite a few. It's quite a sprawling epic as the Arthurian legend, as you have obviously like Tristan and Isolde, Gawain and the Green Knight, Percival, and obviously a lot of them are fantastical elements, so they've been stripped from this, but there are many left behind. And I thought,
post-Roman Britain as it should be.
Exactly.
It feels very post-apocalyptic as well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, because it's kind of that regression from what they know of the Roman Empire and all that learning.
And hopefully the TV series coming out will be just like
fingers
that.
crossed.
So fingers crossed.
There were some casting announcements not long ago, weren't there?
Never heard of any of them.
Neither had I. Cool. But yeah, one of them is a huge fan apparently.
Hadn't heard of Alexander Draymond before he was Uhtred, and he's fantastic.
He is perfect as Uhtred. He's the best cast person in Last Kingdom, other than Finan. He's brilliant. But the other thing is
nothing like the Finan in the book.
No, he's not. He's much better.
Not actually bad casting. No,
because if they change the character, like if he was meant to be playing the character from the book,
is that good casting though? Or
because
change the character.
Yeah, but look how they changed Aragorn in the film of Lord of the Rings compared to the book.
Yeah, nowhere near as much as Finan.
No, but he's quite significantly different. No. Because in the book he wants to become king and he's been waiting for it, whereas he's still reluctant in the films. And that's part of what Viggo Mortensen does so brilliantly.
Yeah, but they didn't make him blonde.
Oh, my head. No, they did not make him blonde. That is true. But yeah, also Enemy of God. Yeah, I just didn't expect that. But Enemy of God also has one of the best romances. Romance, I think, is really hard to do, and I understand completely why a lot of authors fail to grip me with romance, because it must be so hard to write it into just.
You're what just is so behind Lancelot and Guinevere, aren't you?
Oh, of course. I hate
their love is beautiful.
It was so funny. Alan Valensandra's reactions to Lancelot, absolutely brilliant. But
coward,
child. But yeah, this is one of the best romances. It feels real, and it just like I love them. I really love them, and I want them to be happy.
You ship them.
I shipped them. I never thought I'd say that when it comes to Enemy of God or Bernard Cornwell book. But yeah, that is my favourite non-fantasy favourite book of all time.
Thank you everyone for watching our books and our videos, of course. Please let us know in the comments below what books here caught your eye. Have you read any of these? Did you hate Blood Meridian?
Did you guess any of them right?
Did you guess them right? How well do you know the Brothers Gwyn? What score did you get out of 10? But let us know in the comments. We look forward to seeing and chatting with you all there. But thank you very much for watching us drone on about literature. As always, thank you for sticking with us. Truth and courage from the Brothers Gwyn.
Truth and courage.